Good morning, you're watching Addis News Hour. I'm Zord Desaling with the news. Thank you for joining us and do stay tuned. As members of the two houses met after a few months of recess here the previous day, the President Sahlawerk Zewde President Sahlawerk Zewde's address made it clear that resolving the conflict in the north in a peaceful manner will remain a topmost priority. The president's speech nevertheless underlined that the belligerent TPLF shattered all hopes of peace despite repeated attempts. She urged all Ethiopians to unite in support of the nation's sovereignty while calling on the African Union to continue advancing the mediation efforts. Kasaun Chani has the following account.
The joint meeting of the six House of People's Representatives of Ethiopia. The House of Federation started the joint session of the 2015 Ethiopian fiscal year. President Sahlawerk Zewde delivered a speech at the inaugural ceremony outlining a key course of the government for 2015. The president subsequently remarked the different steps had been taken by the government to end the violence in Ethiopia's northern region amicably, and that a steadfast commitment needed to be reaffirmed.
መንግስት መቼም ቢሆን የሰላም በሮችን እንደማይዘጋ ግልጽ አድርጓል።
The government's request for peace talks with the TPLF group and its steadfast commitment to having the dispute settled through AU-led negotiations are of utmost importance for the sovereignty of the country. The government must push for negotiations with the TPLF. Maintaining unity is more vital than focusing on differences.
ያደረገ ያለውን ጥረት በመቀጠል ለሰላም ያለውን አስተዋጽኦ እንደሚያበረክት እምነቴ ነው።
In order for Ethiopia to break the cycle of war and establish sustainable peace, the President has urged all parties to contribute to the country's sovereignty. She also emphasized that the National Dialogue Commission should receive the support it needs to be as inclusive as possible.
የግጭት አዙሪት በመስበር አገራችንን እየተመላለሰ ከሚጎበኛት የህልውና ስጋት መጠበቅ መቻል አለብን።
It should be underlined that the government should be devotedly implement mitigating measures for harassment to disrupt the peace and security of the country if there may be any group that pose a threat to national sovereignty. I urge all Ethiopians to unite and support the National Dialogue Commission's initiatives to promote unity in the country. If so, it is thought that Ethiopia can break the cycle of war and bring about a permanent peace.
ጦርነት በሰላም የሚቋጭበት እንዲሆን የሁላችንንም ጥረት ይጠይቃል።
It was learned that various countries' ambassadors, representatives of international institutions, religious leaders, and other invited guests attended the New Year's 2015 fiscal year joint session of the two houses of Ethiopia.
In another development, the presidential address to members of the parliament and the 112-strong House of Federation lauded the glittering achievements made during the year in the field of diplomacy. Keeping with the tradition, Sahlawerk's address signaled that the government's diplomacy will give prime importance to escalating regional integration during the year 2015. The address, however, pinpointed that despite achievements, Ethiopia's boat of diplomacy still has rough waters to pilot through. Haptama Shagri compiled the following report.
The House of People's Representatives and House of Federation officially resumed their discussion back from recess for 2 months. Speaking on the occasion, President Sahlawerk Zewde said Ethiopia is undertaking fruitful diplomatic activities to realize regional integration in the Horn region.
Furthermore, Ethiopia's diplomatic directions in the past year, which puts into perspective the prevailing situations of the region, has been open to neighboring countries and those in the region to work together on common interests and peace.
Sahlorg underlined that Ethiopia is undertaking effective activities to cement the multi-benefits between itself with friendly countries.
In terms of diplomacy, many things have come to pass at the region and continental level in the last year. Realizing that Ethiopia is connected with its neighbors through infrastructure, trade, culture, language, national resources, and religion, it's working to enhance and improve its relations with countries of the region by using these ties.
According to the president, effective diplomatic activities are well underway to brief other low-rank countries about the significance of GERD.
Anyone that aspires to sustain use of the Nile River needs to contemplate the future conditions of the river. Having understood this critical issue in advance, Ethiopia is making various efforts to share the Green Legacy program experience with neighboring countries. In addition, the Great Ethiopian Renaissance Dam will allow Egypt and Sudan to get energy supply at a reasonable price. And the dam can protect the ecological condition of the river by adjusting the water levels, which fluctuates every season, thereby allowing a balanced flow throughout the year.
In 2021-22 fiscal year, Ethiopia has been undertaking effective diplomatic activities to strengthen bilateral and multilateral relations with other countries.
Ethiopia, as an ancient country in the world, has always been known by its particular history, tradition.
Well, I think it's a beautiful country, but what I like most about Ethiopia is its people. Everybody's kind.
Here in Addis Ababa, lots of changes have been happening right after Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has come to power.
There are some kind of cultural things, like if you can see there are some religions over there.
This one is another aspect that introduces the park ultimately as Ethiopia is working toward this tourism promotion. The really good ice cream.
Yeah, I can only agree.
Right now I am going to the kids playground area, which is found in Andinet Park.
Look how fun it is. It's so crowded and big.
And politicians who attended the joint session the previous day underlined peace and economy must be capitalized as per the president's speech in the current fiscal year. Our staff reporter Demis Mokriao talked to them and has the following story. Take a look.
When the new year begins, members of the House of People of Representatives and members of the House of Federation holds an annual joint session before they enter into their regular activities. While addressing the two houses at their joint session, President Sahlorg Zewde uncovered some of the political and socio-economic priorities of the government for the current Ethiopian fiscal year. Accordingly, some members of political parties and the academia said peace and economy must be at the heart of the priorities in line with the president's speech.
President Sahlorg Zewde informed us that during the war that we had in the past year, the Ethiopian economy was able to progress and foreign investment was progressing well, and there was a major progress in economic sector. So we were not expecting this because Ethiopia was at war. So it's the good news that it shows that the Ethiopian economy is resilient and the Ethiopian people are also resilient for this. And then having said this, the president also informed us, told us that what would be the direction for the next year. For the direction, the main direction is that to bring more economic growth, more prosperity and reduce poverty, provide social services. For this to happen, she assures us that the issue with TPLF will be handled peacefully. So I saw these two things going hand in hand. If you want to bring economic growth, if you want to reduce poverty, and if you want to provide social services for the people and reduce inequality, then you need to have a peace plan. So this is really a very good move, and Ethiopian government is in the right direction.
President Sahlorg said the Ethiopian government has been committed for peace talks to resolve the war with TPLF. The president said any military provocations against such efforts by the TPLF shall be, however, responded accordingly. The individuals who gave their comment to ETV also said TPLF has no option except complying with the peace talk initiative as it runs out of capacity for further war.
This time, I think the only option for TPLF is coming around the table, sitting and discussing, discussing with the government and going with the line of negotiation. Yeah, I hope they don't have another option.
This government has attempted so many times, more than 3 times, to approach this terrorist organization to come into a round table discussion and settle the problem, share power, etc. But they, like any beast, they want to amass everything, the power, the wealth they had before. So this is the kernel of the problem. Despite all this, and there is also now a last attempt for peace, I hope the government will push on the peace path, despite the arrogance and the desire of the terrorist organization TPLF, hoping to acquire its whims through terrorist activities.
President Sahlorg said the Ethiopian government will do its level best in the current fiscal year so as to ensure peace and tranquility within the country on top of soothing the escalating inflation.
The Ministry of Education announced that over 560,000 students sat for the Grade 12 National School Leaving Certificate exam it has been administering across 130 exam centers beginning Monday. While the exam for the most part went well, some centers faced interruptions or hurdles. For one instance, a bridge connecting the main campus of the Hawassa University with the Techno campus collapsed on Monday, injuring examinees. Tagusanisa has the following account.
This is the first time in history of the nation when the National School Leaving Certificate exam is being administered in universities where students stay until the end of the exams. Over 500,000 examinees attended the first day without any security problems. Minister of Education Brahanu Nega briefed journalists regarding the first day of the exam.
130 ማዕከላት ከ560 ሺህ በላይ ተማሪዎች.
Beginning Monday, about 560,000 students sat for the exam in 130 exam centers. So far, the process is proceeding well and very much as planned.
ፈተና የጀመሩት ተማሪዎች በሰላማዊ መንገድ ፈተናውን እየወሰዱ ነው.
But not everywhere. The collapse of the main bridge connecting the main campus of the Hawassa University with the Techno campus put obstacles in the way of the exam. In fact, the collapse left some students injured while one student died. The ministry has announced that the injured students have been receiving treatment at Hawassa Referral Hospital.
We are pretty much saddened by what has happened to the students. The bridge connects the two campuses. After spending the night at the main campus, the victims were on their way to the technology campus when the bridge came crashing down. It's a 10-year-old bridge. About 115 fell victims and were rushed to the Hawassa Referral and Adari hospitals. Most suffered only minor injuries, while only few are serious. But suddenly, one student died in the campus.
The exam has been conducted successfully in other parts of the entire country. More than 976,000 students are expected to sit for the exams in 2 rounds.
Tigrayan rebel forces have killed dozens of civilians during their latest occupation of a town in the Amhara region, survivors claim. After fighting resumed last month in the northern area of Ethiopia, The alleged killings took place in the town of Kobo, located along the highway to the capital Addis Ababa. Between 13th to the 15th of September, Tigray People's Liberation Front fighters shot dead unarmed civilians they suspected of supporting federal forces and local militias, survivors have told The Guardian. In one district of Kobo alone, witnesses counted 17 bodies of people killed over 2 days. The extrajudicial executions were carried out during house-to-house searches by the rebels, according to the testimonies of 7 survivors. Africa is facing unprecedented hunger, this time with more than 278 million people exposed to severe hunger. This brutal phenomenon has cast a bad spell on 20% of the continent's population. This came on Monday at a conference that discussed short-term and long-term remedies for the challenge here at the headquarters of the African Union. Jonas Fantown reports.
On her speech at the opening of the conference, Ambassador Josefa Seko, Commissioner for Agriculture, Rural Development, Blue Economy and Sustainable Environment of the African Union Commission, pointed out that the problem of food security is in large scale and alarming.
This event comes at a time when the challenges of hunger, food insecurity and malnutrition on the African continent are on the rise, with the latest data showing that 1 in 5 people in Africa, that is 20.2% of our population, was facing hunger in 2021. Africa is no doubt facing one of the most alarming food crises in decades.
Addressing the event, former Ethiopian Prime Minister Hailemariam Desalegn expressed the need to act now in order to eradicate the widespread effects of climate change globally.
Food systems are in crisis due to conflict, climate change, the economic effect of COVID-19, and skyrocketing food, fertilizer, and fuel prices. With the lingering effects of the COVID-19 pandemic on economies and livelihoods, where the recovery so far has been unequal and marginalized, and the groups marginalized continue to struggle disproportionately, and extreme weather events become increasingly frequent, food systems are unable to yield adequate, safe, and diversified nutrition food for all.
Commenting the efforts of Ethiopia on making itself food self-sufficient by irrigated wheat production, the former Prime Minister said the following.
There is food, fertilizer and fuel price hike. And this is because of the geopolitical tension in the war in Ukraine. And I think that has tremendously affected African countries. And we need to address to this issue seriously and aggressively, and get the support from the international community to support African countries. We are suffering on a making which is not ours. It is far away from us, but it's affecting us. So I think we need to get the necessary support from the international community. But of course, we have to do our homework at home as well.
Approached by ETV, Dr. Abebe Haile Gabriel, Assistant Director General and Regional Representative for FAO, described the current food crisis situation of Africa.
What is striking about the situation in Africa is that, Africa doesn't have to be like this when it comes to food security and agriculture. Africa has, what it takes to produce enough to feed the African population, but also even to produce surplus and export it. Unfortunately, the situation is not like that. And this is because there is not enough attention has been paid to the agenda of food security and agriculture.
It is to be recalled that the African Union dedicated the year 2022 to be the year of nutrition under the theme of strengthening resilience in nutrition and food security on the African continent, strengthening agro-food systems, health and social protection systems for the acceleration of human, social and economic capital development.
Ambassador, I want you to explain about the bilateral relationship between Ethiopia and India.
Indians have always found Ethiopia to be their home.
The relationship in international fora of UNSC. So what's the impetus for India and what's the mutual understanding in such occasions?
We have always looked at our sisters and brothers in Africa, in Asia and in the Caribbean as our own.
What's your take on the efforts of the government of Ethiopia now to conduct a national dialogue?
African solutions for African problems.
State Minister for Health Daraje Duguma announced that activities are underway to meet 60% of nation's pharmaceutical medical supplies demand with local products. The minister made the statement while addressing the 19th annual summit of the Ethiopian Pharmaceutical and Medical Supplies Manufacturing Industries Sectoral Association. In his opening speech at the summit, Duguma said that the health sector has registered promising results in areas including supply of quality and authenticated medicines and medical supplies. Following incentives introduced by the government, currently there are 18 pharmaceutical companies in Ethiopia that are engaged in production of drugs and medical supplies, the state minister explained. Back again to our final story on the joint session, President Sahle-Work Zewde told parliamentarians that efforts will be made to stabilize the ever-soaring inflation and create healthy macroeconomic environment. She also stated that the government has rolled up its sleeves to attract potential investors to make Ethiopia an alternative investment destination. Gosh Melliso has the full account. Take a look.
The second joint session of the House of Federation and House of People's Representatives has officially undergone, focusing on pressing issues of the country. Addressing the bicameral houses, President Sahle-Work Zewde said efforts will be made to stabilize the ever-soaring inflation and create healthy macroeconomic environment.
In recent years, inflation has continued to rise in our country. Therefore, in the 2015 budget year, efforts will be made to stabilize inflation and to create a healthy macroeconomic environment.
Government gives priority to use limited resources appropriately to ensure the sustainability of national development. The president stated that the government gives emphasis to attract potential investors to make Ethiopia alternative investment destination.
We will work diligently to attract potential investors by undertaking various activities that promote our country as an alternative investment destination. In order to ensure the sustainability of national development and growth, improving tax revenues, ensuring limited resources are used properly and sparingly, reducing the wastage of resources, making the government budget focus on economic and social sectors that can quickly reduce poverty.
She also highlighted that effective fiscal and financial policy will be implemented during the 2015 Ethiopian fiscal year to curb the negative impacts of inflation on low-income householders.
Increasing food production and supply, implementing an effective fiscal and financial policy, modernizing the supply chain and facilitating the way products are brought to the market, and subsidizing low-income households to alleviate negative impact of inflation are all tasks that the government will focus on during the fiscal year.
Sahle-Work further underscored the government will strengthen rebuilding social and economic entities destroyed by the war by mobilizing the public and regional governments.
In the 2014 fiscal year, the work to provide humanitarian assistance and support to the displaced or affected members of society due to various conflicts and natural disasters and rebuilding the social and economic institutions that were destroyed due to war and conflict will be strengthened by the federal government, the regional states, and the public through the concentrated effort of raising funds for the implementation of the rehabilitation plan.
According to the president, the government will also work to revive the tourism sector. Over the past 3 years, the revenue collected from tax has shown improvement, she added.
You're watching Addis News Hour, and now let's take a recap of the top stories once again. Government urged to press ahead with efforts to resolve conflict in the north. And Africa is said to be facing worst food crisis in decades. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for watching Addis News Hour. I'm Zohar Desalegn, and have a great day ahead.